We are watching a big showdown from forward versus Iznogood. Forward in the white. Iznogood in the red. Pass through the hands of Pal. Iznogood now with the disc, but they're on the sideline, closest to the camera. Setting up in a horror with three handlers. They center it, looking long with a big flick down, but it just had too much curvature on it and too much angle coming out of that hand. But there was a call, and there is a discussion on field.
I saw some hand signals for a travel call, but it looks like somebody might retract it as a result of the turnover from the throw. Not sure if that's actually.
Yeah. Gigi, are you good with your rules knowledge?
I should be. I mean, I'm going to Worlds, so
yes.
you would expect me to know the rules, but
yes.
it's always the minor details that don't come up that frequently that I just don't know.
It's always the rules that I don't remember that well that gets me when I'm on the field, and it's that, you know, the incidental foul or those sorts of things, those little incremental parts where, you know, you've got to just understand the interpretation of the rule to be able to use it. But with a travel, I mean, sometimes, you know, you don't have to stop the play for a travel, and that's the thing, you can just keep moving on. But we do often see teams stopping to reset the play and just gathering their thoughts for a second. Iznogood now with the disc. That was Spappins. Getting very cluttered in there, looking to send it to the sideline. They're looking long, but it's not there. The options aren't coming, so they dump it. Looking for the swing, not there. Send it down the line with almost a hand block there. And a great shot to the end for Iznogood. Number 9 there, Gadash. Had acres of space, miles away from his opponent. Could easily bring that one down.
Yeah, Iznogood are absolutely riled up for this game. They've been training since October in the run-up to WECC coming up in just a few weeks. They've also got quite an international team. I say international, it's very European-based. So we've got, they've had a couple of pickups from Belgium and from the Netherlands, so I can't remember which number he is. I think he's number 22, Joram Mossink. He's based in the Netherlands, and he's played for teams like Pelt from Ireland before as well. And now he's found his way onto Iznogood, going to Worlds, and he's a very integral part of this team.
Yeah, as you say, Gigi, these teams are in the warm-up to WUC, and this is the last tournament for some of these teams. It's the last warm-up, the last tournament that they can really build everything that they've got, fine-tune their last little bits and pieces, all the things that they've been training for months and years, really, for this huge tournament that comes up in July in Cincinnati, Ohio. You see forward now with the disc. They've got it on the far sideline, looking for options, and they're just not quite there. High stall count, gets it off into the middle. Back onto the sideline. Looks to swing it dump. He's not there. It's not free. Down on the sideline. And we have a pick call.
It's always nice to see the use of hand signals from Worlds teams.
Certainly helps us, doesn't it, in the commentary box to understand what's going on field. And it's actually a part of playing the game. You have to know what the hand signals are. And so often we see lots of teams aren't quite like that. You know, when a team actually does follow the rules and uses the hand signals in quite a good way, it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So discussing the pick call now, whether there was a considerable distance or not.
Beauty of those times is also it gives the defense a moment to reset and figure out where they're positioned. And it's the same for offense, because they were looking a little cluttered as they look to center the disc now. Big hammer over the top to Zellinger.
Just from the first few points, you can actually see that Izno and Forward have very similar offensive structures. They like to run quite basic stacks, so vertical stacks, really simple horizontal stacks, but then they use expansive throws to open up the pitch and really get the defense on their heels.
Forward now with 2 points on the scoreboard. Taking the early lead.
The conditions have actually, well, I'm not sure about the other pitches, but the conditions don't seem too bad on these pitches, at least from further back on pitch 13. It was quite blustery for a lot of this morning, wind probably reaching about 20, 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're right, Gigi. It was really windy this morning, and it was going to be an interesting day to see how teams fare up against these types of conditions. But the sun's coming out now, the clouds are clearing, the wind is dying down, it's really a breeze. I mean, there's no excuse now for a bad shot in the sky, is there? Big pull now from Forward. Zerloff there with the pull. And they're setting up in looks like a zone. Backhand to a player on the doorstep of scoring. Nice reset back, very safe to get an easy point on the board. Iznogood scoring. And I think that is Iznogood's first point. Second point. So it's 2-all. Oh, they've updated. The beauty of Swiss Draw now is that we've got some very close games. Teams are going to be matched up against equal strength teams. That's what we want to see here today. Do you have any predictions for this game, Gigi?
It's quite difficult to tell, especially because with Worlds coming up, a lot of teams are wanting to lock in their rosters, but they've picked up people from, well, like Iznogood, they're picking up people from across Europe in order to bring depth and diversity into the teams. But really, whoever champions on this game, they need a considerable points difference to actually benefit from winning at all.
I think what will be interesting with Iznogood is that because they've got so many pickups, will they be able to gel? Will they have that chemistry on field? Because sometimes that's all that matters, really, as we see Forward really making easy cuts down the line. Beautiful swing across to space. Looking to score, but just taking the safe options, not trying to rush it or anything. Just moving it through the handlers. Waiting for that opportunity, and that's what they get. A beautiful opportunity right on the line. Taking it 3-2. Just looking at the information sheet that the teams had to fill out before this tournament, Forward have mentioned that their style of play is going to be about the handlers initiating and the cutters just doing the rest. It's an interesting sort of way to do it because there's a lot of pressure on handlers to do that. How do you feel they're going to fare up with that type of style?
As in, how do you think Iznogood are going to fare up? Or
Forward, well, they're just sort of, like they've just suggested that the handlers are going to be initiating the play, and then it'll be up to the cutters to just fill in the gaps and figure it out.
it gives the handlers an element of freedom and control. They kind of take almost the role of a quarterback would in American football. They get to dictate the pitch and essentially get the disc moving in the way that they want to. And once they've got that flow, which is probably what they're trying to achieve with that handler initiation, that's when defense just can't catch up. Because when a team has flow, it's almost impossible to stop at times.
Yeah. Flow is so incredibly crucial in these types of games. And when you have really good flow and really great chemistry, only a really smart team can break that mold. As we see Iznogood now in possession of the disc. Beautiful cut there. Low disc, but taken safely by Bredard. They're just passing it down on the sideline. As the wind starts to pick up, it's moving right to left on the screen, and the disc was just too low. Couldn't be reeled in by Nguyen as he's on the mark now. High disc, forward now. Looking to send it long, but centers it back to the dump. Safe cuts coming from the vertical stack down the sideline. Millimeters from walking out. And he toes the sideline, but that he might have been on the line there, Gigi. Did you get a glimpse at that?
I actually wasn't really looking. There was quite a cluster of people. Number 19 for Izno, David Price, is saying that it was out. Maybe just discussing whether the catcher had actually established control of the disc before.
Yeah. He was knocked to the ground pretty quickly, but I think from my perspective, it seemed like his foot was actually on the line and might have actually been out.
It might also be a discussion of, was there a force out?
That's true.
Defed was on the back foot, and they could have just
Would they have
incidentally pushed them out of the pitch.
Absolutely. Would they have remained inside the bounds if it hadn't been for that defender? Not to know.
Contested call coming in on 0 now.
Back to forward, but they're trapped on that sideline, and they just look to the end zone. And that was a silly mistake there. He lost eyesight, lost contact. Just looks like he was blindsided by that one. Iznogood now trapped down in that little coffin corner with the wind to their advantage here, but the options aren't coming from the stack. And a Hail Mary pass deep long with 2 forward defenders cutting off any opportunity for Iznogood to remain possession.
Yeah, the handler there didn't really have very many options, so sending it long was potentially one of the better options.
And a nice high grab there from Iznogood player. Getting the disc back. David Price now centering it. Scuba over the top. Too easy, they say.
Yeah, that's the expansive kind of play that we've been looking for in this wind. A lot of people at times would be put off by throwing a hammer or a scuba in the wind, throwing some sort of bladey shot, but it just works. When it works, it works, and you can't deny that.
And it's hard to defend, isn't it, Gigi? I mean, how do you defend those types of throws? Because for a marker, there's not much you can do. If they're going to be throwing over the top of your hands and you can't get higher, then that's it. If you're the defender on the receiver, what do you do there in those sorts of situations?
Watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it. Watch a world crumble at your feet and cry. This is coming from experience, of course.
Yes. You're a highly experienced player. You've certainly been in situations before where you've seen hammers or scubas go over the top of your head. There's sometimes just nothing you can do, really. Forward now in possession. Looking to move it very quickly with a big shot into the end zone. And we have Doppelbauer taking a one-handed grab. Calmly takes it, but there was a lot of pressure from Iznogood with the defender right on his tail. It's now 4 points to Forward, 3 to Iznogood.
Izno have been doing really well on defense, pretty much up until that point of forcing Forward into the pitch, so forcing them up pitch, trying to prevent anything like that long shot that came off, because, well, Izno have probably experienced Forward's long shots before. They work. It works so well. I can imagine that Austria is a relatively windy place, so they're comfortable in this wind. They're just going with it.
That's right. There's a bit of confidence in being able to play in these types of conditions with a bit of wind. If you can still put up those big shots, regardless of what side of the field you're on, if you're upwind or against wind, if you can still put them up, you're a huge threat to any opponent. And there's only one thing that you can actually control is your own game. You can't control the weather, so the only thing you really can do is just become a really good thrower in the wind. You can't always pray for good weather. As we see a big pull from Forward going out. And they'll likely take the brick. Ewan now with the disc. And a big early backhand huck to the end zone. Oh! And he gets it with 2 defenders either side of him. He says, "No, sir, this is my disc. I'm going to score regardless." That was absolutely beautiful. That was textbook, wasn't it, Gigi? That was the first throw. It was like, hey, guys, I'm going to huck it long. I need one person down there because it doesn't matter how many defenders from Forward that are there, you're still going to get it.
Oh, my God. That disc from Wen was perfect. I mean, if there weren't 2 Forward defenders there, it probably would have been a little bit better, but you can't ask for much more in terms of a disc that just sits out nicely. And the Iznogood player, I can't remember who it was that received the disc in the end zone, did so well in holding his ground. Complete confidence and trust in the receiver, in his own reception. Would love to see some more of that from both sides.
Yeah, he just held his cool. He saw the disc. He knew that there were 2 players either side of him, but he still got it just in time. And that's the mark of a really talented player there. Forward now with the disc, looking to move it quickly. They're looking long with a big flick and a great hands up block, but catch your G's, sir, because Forward still retain possession and they huck it long. Oh. And a touch too much, just couldn't ring it in with the fingertips. Zellinger just couldn't hail it in.
He's going to remember that one as well.
He certainly will. I think next time he'll go out with 2 hands. I mean, it's difficult when you're running as fast as you can and you're trying to jump up high to get it. And sometimes you just hit it at that wrong angle. Amato now with the disc for Iznogood. They're set up in a horror, and we've got an injury.
Foul call. Unless he doesn't know his hand signals, and that's a very different thing.
Yeah. Iznogood moving it between the handlers, looking for a flick. Defender there. Oh! And that was too good. That was Christian there who pulled down that disc. And just too trigger happy, I think, trying to send that disc into the end zone with about 4 forward players and only 3 Iznogood players.
Number 90 for Iznogood was not holding back and calling a foul there. There was definitely some contact initiated, and it probably affected the catch. But there will be a discussion. I would imagine this is going to get sent back because both of these teams are hungry.
Yeah. I think when you're in such a tight contest, and when it's not just about winning the game, because in a Swiss draw it's also about the points that you get as well. So you want to keep it a close game regardless of whether you win or lose. We're going to see a lot of calls being made to slow down the pace, to reset, to allow players to sort of gather their thoughts. And in these types of contests, you're also going to be going for everything, no matter what, and that's what we saw there. I think the forward players had really good position because they were applying a lot of pressure, and there was not much space for that disc to go in safely. And you're right there, Gigi, the disc has gone back to number 87 on Iznogood.
Doesn't appear to have a mark either, so you won't have any sort of stall count to worry about.
So no pressure there for him. He can just tap it in. But he'll have to wait for someone to get free. And we have a kick hold. Iznogood setting up in a vertical stack, but completely cutting off their end zone because they're stacking quite high. And a great foot block from Neubauer. Absolutely demolished that disc. Kicked it out of his way like it was football. Went streaming out into the sideline. Forward now, trying to move it nice and quickly. It's their style of play. Let the handlers initiate play. So you see a beautiful flick, but the wind just bobbles it. That actually was a really good look because the space was clear. There was a receiver there making the cut. It was a handler-initiated cut, but it was the wind that picked up the pace and bobbled it and sent it out of the end zone.
It's quite unfortunate that foot block from Neubauer is just, it's all in vain.
Yeah.
He'll have to come back, reel another foot block in.
But those types of moments, they build confidence in your team and your ability to work. I'm sure he's feeling pretty good. Hopefully he gets on the highlight reels today because that was a beautiful foot block. As we see Iznogood in a danger zone, just getting clear of their end zone now. But it's looking very cluttered. We've got handlers very close and they're not making space for each other. Hail Mary pass to the sideline. He just manages to toe it in. But there's a little discussion on the field. I think they're calling it in. But another excuse to just slow down the pace and reset yourself. For forward, they're just trying to take their time. Bit of a 1-2 there. Options not coming now on the sideline. Flick straight into the hands of a forward player. Bit too trigger happy, poor choice there. Forward now on the sideline against the wind. As you see it bobble that disc, that's the wind, not the thrower. Backhand to a player, reaches out, gets horizontal but couldn't get it. It was in his fingertips, just didn't have enough oomph behind him.
this is where the wind starts to dictate the game. There's been at least 4 turnovers, 2 from each side. Players are getting frustrated, not necessarily at each other, but the wind has definitely affected the play.
That's right. We've seen a few turnovers already in this point. And Iznogood call a timeout, but it looked like a bubble in the disc. I wasn't sure what was happening.
It would have been quite unfortunate if he dropped that.
It certainly would have.
Turnover from calling a timeout.
So, Gigi, Iznogood are calling a timeout. It's level apiece for each. What do you think they're going to be saying in that circle there?
I don't know what they'd be saying. What they should be doing is just playing their own game. They're getting sucked into forwards intensity, and that's okay sometimes if you're in control of yourselves and each other. But where we've got the situation of the wind has picked up, you're going to have to be a lot more careful on what decisions you're making, what angle you throw the disc at, just exactly what's going on. You need to be able to read the situation a little bit better, and in doing that, you need to take control. So Izno should just play their own game. For now, forward can rile themselves up, rile each other up, really get intense on defense. They're a little bit heads down, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I like what you said there about Iznogood. I think it is. I mean, they're a team that they've been training for ages, but they do have a few pickups. So it is important that they just play their game. There's an element to being a bit organic and not trying to, you know, stick to a set play, because in these types of conditions and against tough components like forward, you're just not too sure what's going to happen. So you really need to be flexible and nimble to be able to work around what's happening. But I like it, you know, just stick to what you know, play your own game. Don't get too, you know, caught up in the intensity and the ferociousness of what's already happening.
And if you fancy checking out some of the other games over the weekend, they should be all on Fanseat.
Actually, we're streaming on YouTube today.
Oh, on YouTube. Oh, plot twist. I didn't know this.
We're either on the Windmill YouTube account or the ULTI.TV YouTube account. We're on the ULTI.TV YouTube account. And thank you to ULTI.TV, who have been our production heroes for this tournament and multiple tournaments throughout Europe and Australia. Incredible guys and an incredible bunch of people bringing you these live streams. So we thank them. Iznogood got a bit of a block there, and they're just discussing what happened.
I think number 52 might be contesting some sort of strip. And it is indeed contested. Thank you for using your hand signals.
Back to the handler for Iznogood. They're set up in a horo, but... Are you a fan of a horo, Gigi?
There's a time and a place for horizontal stack.
Oh, that was a big backhand, and that wind just punished it and dropped. Right in the middle, and a bobble from forward. Neubauer just couldn't grab it, butterfingers. The disc is cursed. It might be this wind, I'm not too sure. Oh, and a miscommunication from Iznogood. And they give forward another opportunity now to gain a lead. Gigi, just going back to what I asked you before about horizontal. The reason I asked is because I often find that horo is good when your team knows horo very well, but it often cuts off a lot of space on the field, and I'm a fan of creating space, not cutting off space.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Using horizontal stack is very good if you've got a lot of experienced players on the team, but regardless of experience, I think if you've trained together well and you know cutting patterns, you know what people like to throw, then it's very good at creating space, especially when the cutters, stand wide, using the entire space on the pitch.
Oh, and we just see Forward there scoring with a beautiful flick into the end zone. That was Ernst who caught the disc. That pass just went through so many players to find the space. Nicely set up as we just saw there on the replay.
But this could be the critical tipping point of the game. Izno are very much in their own heads. They're being critical, maybe not necessarily of each other, but you can see that there were minor mistakes that led to major changes. And Forward are hopefully going to use the extra legs that they've got to put on a completely clean line, fresh heads. Because that was a long point.
That was a long point. It's really fascinating that even from up high here where we are, we can actually see the sort of mental capacity of these teams, the way that they're behaving, the way that they're holding themselves. Forward are really holding themselves quite high and they seem very confident. Iznogood just seem slightly off a little bit. They're just not quite with it. And I think it's also a matter of play your game, but, you know, have that confidence, you know, trust in yourself and your own players. And perhaps that's an element of the fact that they've got a few pickups, they don't know each other very well, and so they don't have that on-field chemistry. Price now with the disc for Iznogood. Sends it straight to his dump, back to Price. Fakes a hammer. Back to Nguyen. Just easy 1-2 passes, not gaining many meters, but that's okay, it's nice and safe. Downfield, there's not many options though, and I think that's the challenge here is Iznogood aren't generating these cuts up the field. They're making lots of deep cuts. As we see a beautiful cut now up the line, on the sideline. Nguyen with the disc now, high stall count. And a player, Gibier, free of space, completely free of his player, but just drops the disc. Oh, great heads up awareness from Marcon. Sorry, that was Tronky. Tronky. Sorry, I'm slaughtering everyone's names.
Just everyone's David Price from now on. It's a lot easier to say.
Oh, and that is too good. Perfectly timed cut. I mean, that's absolutely, that is what you want as a handler. You want to see these receivers becoming open the moment you catch the disc and you look up. As we see the replay, Rescan from Iznogood just bolted immediately away from his defender and he had no opportunity to catch up. So now we've leveled the scores, 5 each.
From the off of that point, I was wrong. I was very wrong. Iznogood are trying so hard to just keep their heads up, and they're doing very, very well.
And they're walking now off with a bit of a smile. A few of them are smiling. I mean, that's better from them now. I think it helps when you get a hand block, and then you score off that. I mean, that's certainly got to boost your confidence. Pull into the wind and sits really nicely. That's a great pull into the wind. Forward now in possession. Iznogood now putting on an interesting zone because, interesting I say because Forward have the wind to their advantage. And so often you just don't seem to put on zones when it's that sort of way. And as you see, they've transitioned to man, but we still have players free. Perhaps just identifying that they're just not a very well-oiled team. They haven't been playing very much together, and they have all these pickups. Beautiful high backhand. Oh, that could not have been better. In the deep pocket of the end zone. A beautiful throw over the top of everyone's heads. Jackpot.
And the offense is representative of what very regular trainings can do. Not that Iznogood don't train together regularly, because they started training a lot more seriously since around about October time last year, and they've been trying to gel a lot more going into the season ahead of WECC, especially when you're a French team and you've got Chuck in your as another national team. And Iznogood have been doing really well and actually trying to clamber up and get closer and closer and closer to the French national title. And I spoke to, again, bringing him up, David Price, before the game, and they said that the last scrimmage that they had against Chuck, the game was within 2 points.
Yeah,
so it's
wow.
getting closer and closer.
Forward, sending a big pull that lands out. And we'll have Nguyen picking up the disc and taking the brick. Sensible option there. You certainly don't want to take it from the sideline in that danger zone.
Wen seems to be quite a crucial handler for this Izno O-line.
Oh, and a huge backhand. Incredible. Absolutely divine. Picked out of the air from Desan Mathieu. And Iznogood now a bit jollier. They've got a skip in their stride. That now makes it 6-all. It's tic-tac. 1 point here, 1 point there. Both teams very strong, but it's going to be who's going to take half. Because when you take half, you often have a really good stronghold of the game at that point. Iznogood just looking a little bit more confident now. They're finding their groove, they've warmed up. Is this their second or third game, Gigi?
I believe this is the second round of games. The very first round of games for Windmill was open and women's. So this is the second lot of open and women's rounds. The next lot is going to be mixed. I can see to my right, I can see Smog warming up. They're throwing. I'm not sure who else is there.
So forward now in offense with the disc. They center it. We're looking at a side stack cutting into the middle. Sends it now to the end zone. Oh, just out of reach for the Iznogood defender. And they make that a very easy point to make it 7-6 to forward. That was very nicely done. They were just very quick, but taking those right high passes.
We can watch that again. Wonderful open side shot, really nice and easy. The defender did try to get a finger involved in getting the disc away. Looks like there's been a timeout call.
Not a bad move. I mean, forward are on the cusp of taking half if they can get that break. It's always the most important time, really, because it can really control the game if you take half. And we see Iznogood, they're having a very focused conversation in their circle. And I'd really love to know what they're saying there, because they're playing well, but there are obviously a few little things that they can fix. Do you have anything you would add to that circle to say, you know?
Just a very brief observation on their defense. They're sagging quite a lot on all of the players, and that's okay at times. So a handler sag is often effective in just trying to get the disc moving between the handlers, and the more you move the disc, the more likely it is that there's going to be some sort of throw-related turnover. That's what a lot of teams try to achieve, but when you've got Izno's defense completely sagging off of a lot of players, it just creates space, especially when you've got that horizontal setup where you've got players all the way across, you've got a dump and a swing, straight continuation. It's not really providing enough pressure. And as we saw, we got a completely open side shot.
Yeah.
But for a score right in the front of the end zone it wasn't too difficult. So what Izno, I think, need to do, they can use that sag, they can use some sort of poaching, but just do it a little bit more intelligently. Stay tight to some of the guys, especially in the deep space.
Yeah, I was going to say, for them, they're out of position when they're in defense. We saw that in that last point that Ford scored. The defender was out of position, and so that's why he didn't get a good reach on that block on the disc. So I would add to that and just say tighten up, get a little bit closer, and really concentrate about your positioning and think about how you're defending your player. Iznogood now going out on offense. Very close stack, but they're looking long again for that easy shot, but it's not there. Send it to Price. Price fakes a hammer. Looks for the long shots, but it's not coming. High stall count. Luckily, good cut in the middle. A big flick into the end zone. Will he get it? No. And he apologizes to his team. Poorly misread.
He did jump very early, but what Forward actually showed there was exactly what I was trying to get at in terms of Izno's defense. So if you saw up at the front with Price and Wen on disc, the handler marks were sagging off a little bit, but everyone else upfield was tight on their mark.
And that's okay, because it's okay to allow the handlers to move it back and forth between each other, as we just see Forward dropping the disc and giving it Iznogood another opportunity. But it's okay to move it 1-2 between the handlers. But what you want, great grab there from Price, what you want is to gain meters, and you can't do that when there's really tight defense from Forward. Spappins now with the disc in the center. Sends it to Nguyen, back to Bredard, back to Price. Price looking to score with a hammer, fakes the hammer, then shoots a real one to Spappins. Price getting every second disc. And a backhand around his mark on the absolute line of the end zone. There's a foul called on the mark. And we get an opportunity to just see how Iznogood was set up, cramming that space back to Price. Cutter's not making very many options, just having to move it very slowly through the handlers, waiting for that opportunity, and Bredard gets it.
Some wonderfully clinical offense. Izno centered themselves, took their time. They trusted each other to be able to actually work it down the pitch rather than trying to just jam it to the end zone. Let's score, let's just get it. And they know that it didn't work. So that clinical offense has brought them to Galaxy Point. We're right on the halfway point. Getting closer, it's getting windier, it's all the fun.
Certainly getting windier, but it doesn't seem to be affecting either teams at this moment. I think what's affecting the teams more is just each other. I think they're getting into their heads, and that's what's stopping them from playing their best.
Yeah, the strange thing about competitive sports like this is that there's two games. There's the actual game that you're playing, and then there's the second game, which is the mental game. You have to take control of both. Otherwise, if you slip away from one, the other just goes, especially with mental game.
Forward now in offense with the option to close this point out really quickly and take half. They get the opportunity to center the disc with a brick. And they're going to go out in a horror. And this is the time for Iznogood to really set up that tight, close defense, put that pressure on now. As we see forward, send the disc, and beautifully captured by a forward player who resets and then gets the score. Number 8 on forward. Oh no, number 37 who's wearing different shorts.
There was some brief discussion halfway down the pitch whether there was a call or not, but it was very, very quickly retracted.
And forward have taken the half. Iznogood now. They're looking down, they're walking with their heads lowered. I mean, where's that confidence gone, Gigi? We need to tell them to just lift themselves a little bit. They've still got it, they're still in the game. But do you think forward has taken it? Do you think this is it?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again, but Izno have shown that they're not a team to give up on a 1 point difference.
That's certainly right. And I know that they have highly skilled players on their team. They have quite a height as well. I mean, forward have a bit of a height there, but I think Iznogood are just taking the mark there.
It's quite difficult to tell because we're both very high up.
Yes. Is there anything you would say to Iznogood at the moment or to forward that would make a difference?
More hammers.
More hammers.
I want to see more hammers.
The viewers want more hammers.
Always.
If you've joined us here on YouTube on ULTI.TV's channel, my name's Hillary and I'm joined here with Gigi. Coming up next, we've got on field 6 Sugar Mix versus Smog, and on field 5 Movie Disc versus Sesquiz. I'm going to slaughter so many names. Sesquiz.
You'd think that there would be some sort of filtration system to let us commentate, but no, we were literally just told, oh, you can speak somewhat. Have a microphone.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to commentate in Australia where I'm from. It's okay because I can understand, you know, I genuinely can pronounce last names and teams okay, but when you come here to the European side,
there's a lot of European.
There's a lot of European, there's lots of different accents, there's lots of different ways to pronounce letters, and so you just don't quite know, so I apologize in advance and today for just slaughtering team names and people's names. I'm so sorry.
That's the nature of commentary. That's why people watch back the games. If you've got a difficult name for the native speaker, I say native speaker, the person who's trying to commentate, then it's always interesting to hear the different variations of your own name getting absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, I have a name that has a silent letter in it, and so it's often, my last name is often pronounced incorrectly, so I totally understand how people feel. Rutero with the disc sends it into the end zone, and we're in Callahan country here. If Iznogood play their cards right, but they get it out. They've picked up the intensity now. It feels a lot more ferocious at this point. Forward trying to get out of this space and send it down the line. There's an Iznogood player there, but number 12 on forward just had the perfect positioning. Very low disc, but there's a call. They're just discussing whether it's up or down. Forward are calling it up. The Iznogood player is calling it down. It looked really low to me, but from our perspective, it's hard to tell.
And Mossink is now agreeing that it was up. We had Wen on this sideline close to us also saying that it was up, so good spirit all around.
And Forward are in possession of the disc. They can take this break and gain a 2-point lead as they retain possession of the disc. Safely agree that it was up and there was a pick on the field. The teams will reset. Players will move back to their position. Dump pass into a power position. Lose a few meters to get a better position to throw. But now on the sideline, Forward are looking to generate those passes. Down the line into the end zone. We've got number 27. He's free. He gets that. He wanted that. He was hungry for that disc. That's Zellinger there.
Forward definitely showing us how to take control of a game. They transition their offense part of the way down the pitch. So we saw when you said, oh, it's Callahan country, you weren't wrong. But the handlers had complete the control. They set the cutters further deeper into the pitch to give the handlers lots of space to get the disc moving, create some flow, and then get the cutters involved.
Yeah, you're right, and that's their style of play, as we were saying before. They want the handlers to initiate the play, and giving them the space is actually really important when you're in those really critical positions on field. Allowing people to move the disc around freely between the handlers is actually more important than making those cuts, because you can be cutting off options that you might not necessarily see there.
It's also really fun. You actually get to run as a handler for once.
Yeah. Gigi, what type of position do you play?
I'm a handler.
Yeah.
I've been referenced as a stander quite a lot. I just don't do much.
You like to stand?
I've tried to change it up and actually run.
Iznogood now with the disc. Cuts not coming off quite quickly enough. They're just moving it between the handlers, waiting for someone to get free. And this forward defensive positioning is really good, very tight. Iznogood not getting any meters, and a great heads-up block from Nemec. Nice flick to Stoschinski, and Forward have absolutely blazoned through. They're now 10 points. Iznogood on 7. They are just stepping up to another level. They've completely warmed up now, and they're raring to go as we feel this wind pick up. It certainly wasn't affecting Forward before. I don't think it's going to affect them now, but it might hinder Iznogood. And another timeout is called.
Quite rightly. Izno definitely need to take some sort of breather. They don't seem physically worn out. They've got quite a lot of legs going. They've got enough for at least 2.5 lines. But just requiring that mental break.
Yeah.
Allowing them to just relax, think, okay, there's a 3-point difference, so what? Start at 0, just restart.
Yeah,
We're back into this.
You're correct there, Gigi. Frisbee is not just about your physical athleticism, but about your mental capacity and your mental athleticism. If you can just relax in these moments and just sort of take the game for what it is and enjoy it. I mean, it's still important to get points on the board because of the way that the Swiss draw is set out. You want to get those points so you're, pitched up against similar strength teams. You don't want to lose points. You don't want to let this become a blowout. And certainly the game isn't over. I mean, Iznogood could still take this. They just need to really focus and just punish forward. But forward just seems to, they've found their groove. They've hit the pedal to the metal and they just know what's happening.
We've had bigger comebacks.
Certainly.
Seen definitely much, much bigger comebacks. But this is where Izno definitely need to step up and take control, because forward right now have control. Very deep pull.
Very deep pull. Price picking it up, moving it quickly. Looking for a flick down the field. Oh, and a great grab from Iznogood, and he just threw it away to a forward player who was running through. That was a really good defensive movement there. Forward now, trying to move it really quickly. Big backhand into the end zone. Number 20 from forward fumbles the disc. He had amples of time to take it in, but the pressure of the two Iznogood players was too much. Iznogood now with another opportunity. We'll have Nguyen with the disc again. He's their trusty handler. He's picking up the disc every opportunity he can.
Now, usually we would have on these rosters who they've played for in the past, but unfortunately we can't see any sort of interesting facts unless we actually have to speak to them.
And Nguyen just flicks it across the field. Oh! And he had a player running deep, but he started on the wrong side of the field. The throw went to the completely other side with the defender in position, cutting off that option. But the challenge now for forward is they're in that tight corner where they have to move it all the way up the field. And with Price on the mark, we could see a good hand block here.
Yeah, I believe this is downside of the pitch, so they're in the least favorable position.
Absolutely. The wind is not in their favor. They have to move it nice and quickly. Oh! And Iznogood get the block. Raskan there with a great defensive positioning. Applying pressure. We have Price on the line, looking to score, and there was a call on field. It might have been a pick, or it was a foul.
I believe number 31 pushed off of the player. Probably incidental, but there was a foul call.
Pushed off, an incidental push off.
I mean, sometimes you just got to get yourself down the pitch. You push through the air, just someone gets in the way.
Steady yourself, don't you, Gigi? Sends it back for a reset pass. Reset to Nguyen.
And that was one of the incidences of fouls that they were probably calling on. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of backpacking.
Quick discussion though, back to the handler, that's what we want to see. Oh! And a hammer just for you, Gigi. Into the hands of Spaffens. I think that's his third or fourth goal that he's caught. He's their main scorer. He's their main scorer here today. I mean, that was beautiful. He's always in space.
One thing we do have in front of us is that we can see how old everyone is, but there's also a calculation at the bottom of the spreadsheet, if I can actually find it.
Of the average age.
Of the average age. So we don't have the average for Iznogood, but there is quite a wide variety of ages. I believe the youngest is 21. No, 20. And then for forward, the average age is 26.6 if you round it up.
There you go.
Another wide variety of
The
ages.
youngest player seems to be only 21 if my eyes don't deceive me.
But that's what I love to see, quite a wide, diverse set of teams, because it's showing that you can bridge experience with youth and bouncy athleticism. Not to say that you're less athletic with age, because I've seen some
Certainly is.
More experienced players throwing themselves around.
As we
I'm
see
just
a
thinking, how are you
huge
not
rundown
broken?
from Fenric on Iznogood. I feel Iznogood now are trying to close that gap, trying to play tight defense. There's only a few more minutes left in this game. They need to work hard to close that gap. Forward fakes the backhand, looks to dump it into the middle, centers it, looks back to dump it. Backhand across the field for a handler-generated pass. And there was a pick called, but I don't think it affected those players in the end zone. As they try to discuss who it would have affected. It was Zellinger who caught the disc for forward with great positioning. He was in front of his player and they called the goal.
Often pick calls are quite tricky to work yourselves around because you can't identify, did it affect the player, were you within 3 meters? They've recently changed the rules, so you now get an extra 2 seconds to call a pick call, so you don't even necessarily have to be within 3 meters to call the pick, but the pick has to have occurred within 3 meters.
It makes it tricky when you have 2 seconds to call it, so the disc can move very quickly in 2 seconds. And sometimes that can really interrupt play and set people off.
I also think that extra 2 seconds is quite beneficial if you feel like you definitely were affected by by your mark just rinsing you deep, and someone else stood in the way. You're like,
Certainly.
I could have gotten that pick.
Yes. It's hard in the moment to call it. I mean, you have to think about so many things when you're on the field. You're not just thinking about the calls or the rules. You're thinking about your field awareness and where you are on what your team's doing, what the handler's doing, what are the other cutters doing, what's your defender doing. There's so many things going through your mind, let alone having to think about, was that a pick? Iznogood now trying to generate really quick movement, looking for a deep shot, not there, getting it up the line. Backhand down to the end zone. With a beautiful high grab from Bradard. Gets it again. He's a powerful player. I mean, the height on him. You trust him to grab anything from the sky.
Peachy shot into the end zone. It did sit for a little bit. There was some hesitation in the reception.
And he got up high at the perfect time. His defender, Crail, just couldn't quite see where the disc was, so didn't know when to jump. Gave him the opportunity to score. So Iznogood are closing that gap. They're on 9 points now, 11 to forward. We see the whole team on the field for Iznogood. And I love when you see that because you know that every single person there knows what the team plan is. It's so crucial at this point in time of the game because you have a very important role on the sideline. You have to help cheer for your team. You have to help communicate the team plan. You have to help your players on the field.
Do you have a Twitter, Hillary?
I certainly do. It's at Hillary Humes, Humes, H-U-L-M-E-S.
Awesome.
Hillary with 1 L. Gigi, do you have a Twitter?
I do. It's _GG17, so that's G-E-E-G-E-E. And we would love to hear from you. Any little tidbits that you have about the teams, if you are watching live, or even if you're watching retroactively, just give us a talk to us, please.
Gigi's desperate for those tweets, getting some content. As we see a beautiful flick pass for forward, and he jumps into the end zone to score. That's Dragashing. Great throw. That was incredible. He had a player right on his toes. Caught it in the air and landed in the end zone. As we see in this replay, he just realizes where the line is, catches it up high, walks it in.
Yeah, I ask about Twitter because we want to be able to stay connected to the community. So anyone that is actually watching or listening in, whether it's now, whether it's in a couple of weeks, just give us a tweet, send us some facts about the teams just so we can know some interesting things. Because I'm looking at the roster, for example, for forward, we have 2 Zellinger. We have Moritz and Lorenz Zellinger. Are they brothers? Are they related? Is it coincidental? This is something that we didn't actually get to prepare for ahead of time.
That's
so please
right.
let us know.
Look, I mean, is Zellinger a popular name in Austria? Is it like the John Smiths in England and Australia where there's, you know, there's names, like there's the name McCarthy in Ireland is like every second person. They could be brothers. They could just be completely unrelated with the same last name.
I'm not Austrian, so I can't answer that question.
We can only
Wrong
speculate. Iznogood now with the disc. Price looking to dish it off into the middle to Nguyen, his trusty steed handler there. We have 2 players marking Iznogood. Oh, great hands there from number 23 on Iznogood. He centers it to the middle without a defender. Iznogood moving it nicely down the pitch. What's happened to the forward defense? This is unusual. Across the field to Price. Price fakes the hammer. Looks for the flick. Not in, just over the line. Number 9 resets it back to Nguyen. Nguyen close to scoring, but isn't quite in. Very tight defense on the mark there from forward. A very high pass, just straight up into the wind. An uncharacteristic throw from Nguyen. We've got David Price. Oh.
The DP answers back to losing that disc to try and get another D.
He had to run the full field at high pace to catch his player and get that block.
Anyone who's familiar with UK Ultimate will know who DP is. He's a very well-versed commentator. He's played for Fire of London for quite a while, and he's recently switched to Iznogood.
That was a beautiful backhand pass and really good field awareness from number 23 in Iznogood. He looked up in time just to recognize that that disc was coming towards the back of his player. Turned around, great pivot, very quick pass to Price. Over to number 23 on Iznogood, that's Givier. And Iznogood now closing that gap, nearing so slowly.
Yeah, we don't have much time left of the game. So it's bridging ever closer. We've gone back to trading. It's now 12-10 in forward's favor.
There's only 2 points in it there for Iznogood. They had a really great offensive point just previously where forward just completely forgot about defense. One observation I've seen, which is completely different, is forward set up quite closely together when they're on their line. Whereas conversely, you see Iznogood spread out using the whole end zone space.
Did they do that both on offense and defense, or is it just for this defensive pull?
I have seen it on offense. They are very highly spread. Certainly doesn't affect anything, but just an interesting observation. Forward now with a cumbersome disc. Nice hammer, and Gigi's cheering. She loves the hammers. She says more. She wants this as a hammer point, but forward are looking to reset in the middle for an easy backhand pass to a player to make it 13 points. Iznogood 10. We are so close to seeing this game end. For Iznogood, it's a matter of minutes now that they need to really switch on and pick up the pace. They look exhausted walking out there, but surely they're not. It's only their second game. They've got such a huge roster. They're just unsure of what to do. Gigi, words of advice for them?
It's difficult to come back from games like this, where the competition is really intense. You know that they're also a world's team, so you almost feel like you've got something to prove, regardless of past results. So, again, just play their own game. A lot of the point of Windmill isn't necessarily to get to the highest spot. Whilst that's great, it's desirable. We've got Worlds in 3 weeks. Try and fit in whatever you can. Work on things you want to set little individual goals, whether that's for your line, for yourself, for the whole team. Just they need to continue playing their own game and not let forward get into their heads.
Yeah, it's often said in times when you're losing, take it as an opportunity to learn from this, but also focus on your individual goals, because you might not necessarily win again or win that game, but you can certainly build from it. You know, you can, as you say, try different things, learn how to compete against the best, as we see a huge flick! Intercepted by number 69 on forward. That was a really nice high take there. And forward calling a timeout. Surely that must be their final timeout call. How many do you get per game, Gigi?
If it's by standard Frisbee rules, then it should be 3 timeouts per game, but 2 per half maximum.
Right, so that'll be their final timeout call. And I think they're probably just trying to burn down the clock, really.
Partially that, but you can also see that, well, I'm not sure if you can see. No, we're focusing on the other team. But what we've got from the forward circle is, I believe it's the 3 handlers, or at least 3 of the leaders of the squad are discussing amongst themselves while the rest of the squad are huddled up. And that's potentially quite a good idea, so they can actually set out a plan. They're probably going to do a very handler offense, well, handler-led offense, to keep pushing them down the pitch. And Izno's defense has taken a little bit of a turn. They're not as fiery, they're not as feisty as they were from the start of the game. There might be fatigue, or it might just be frustration, because these games are intense and it can get long, especially when we have longer points like the one that was showed previously.
Yeah. You're right there, Gigi. They're lagging a little bit. They just need a bit more energy. And they need to find that within. They need to dig deep. And sometimes it comes down to really good leadership if you can actually pick up a team. I think we saw the leadership team on forward having a quick chat before they got into that circle, and maybe that'll make that difference right now. Forward setting up in a horror.
The handler on disc is inset towards the middle of the pitch, and the other 2 handlers are offset roughly by 45 degrees for one dump handler, and the other one is slightly wider. That's potentially trying to drag out any poaches from a handler so they can get that disc moving, or just send it.
Just huge. One quick catch your G's. Oh! And he hears my prayers. He does. Brett Dart again caught the disc.
It's always a little bit heartbreaking when you see that disc go up for a second time and it's just out of your
And
reach.
your heart skips a beat because you think he's going to get the block and then it could come back. And that's the thing with Frisbee. You absolutely cannot trust what's going to happen until that disc safely is in your hands or hits the ground. Iznogood now with another opportunity. For those of you watching at home, Windmill has a theme for the tournament, and that is millennials. So in honor of that, I've been posting Instagram stories all day. If you want to follow me, I'm at Bear Hills, BEARHILZ. Like Bear Grylls, but Bear Hills.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Watch my stories. I've got loads of content, all Frisbee related. And if you're lucky, you might even get on air. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Hillary Humes or...
That's a good question. _GG17. I believe that my Instagram is actually the same, not as yours, obviously. That would be weird.
That would be very weird. Very strange. Forward now, back with the disc, looking again to just send it long. Oh, number 69 was there, but it just came through his hands. He's calling a foul. And they're just going to chat it through.
Yes, just checking. My Instagram is exactly the same. It is _GG17. I very rarely post, but when I do, it's mediocre. There is a contested call. I'm not entirely sure what it was, but there is discussion towards the front where the handlers are set, and on the fourth, probably discussing where the disc, well, at what point, what stall count the disc is going to be coming back in. And the sun has come out, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's so nice. The weather is perfect now. Oh, that was so close. That was great pressure. And a really high disc, too much for forward to rein in. Iznogood now, have it on the sideline. We've got Zuber, who will take the disc. We'll have a very tight mark from Nemec. Not letting anything through. Putting on a home mark. Home force. Oh! Oh, wow, that was beautifully timed there from Gibeah. He just watched his defender go up too early and waited for that disc to float down. Jump in! Number 23 on Iznogood. Gibeah. It's the second time he's just jumped in over the line to get that point. So we watch a very quick movement. And very nice chemistry between these two. He just waits for that cut to come off.
That's the music playing through the speakers now. 5 minutes left of the game. Is that what the speakers are? I'm completely unsure. I'm not paying attention to this tournament unless I'm playing.
So I've actually been told nothing about that, but from the last two games, I have heard the music towards the end of the game, and I would say that you're correct there, Gigi. You're probably bang on the money that as it starts playing, it's probably, you know, signaling that it's the end, towards the end of the game. These are your last moments to bring it back. It's slightly unfair because do you really want to know, you know, how much time you've got left on the clock? Or would it be distracting even?
I believe it depends on the kind of player that you are. If you're someone who cannot handle pressure very well, then knowing that you've only got 5 minutes to reel it back in, to at least bring it to some sorts of level playing field, then it's not as useful. But if you're someone who thrives under pressure, who knows, like, I've got 5 minutes to show what I've got, I'm going to bring everything that I can. This might be what Izno will do. They seem to be the kind of team that will fight until the very last disc.
Yeah. And points cap is 15. Is that correct, Gigi?
Yes. Point cap 15, half at 8.
So forward have 2 points off 15, and they're set very far down from their handlers, but probably, as you say, to generate those good handler movements. As you see, it isn't a good player go down, but gets up, takes it in his stride. Iznogood get the opportunity to reset and look at where their defensive position is. I've lost the roster. I don't know who I'm calling.
This is how blustery the wind is. It's not forgiving at all. It's
Thanks,
also
Casper.
quite chilly up from this height.
This is the thing with Amsterdam and with the Netherlands. The weather is so unpredictable. Any moment now, the wind could pick up again. Yesterday it was raining really heavily for 5 minutes and then it would stop. You can't trust it. Forward now, trying to move this disc very quickly, trying to look for that deep shot. We got a beautiful pass down to 37. Oh, and 72 has to get horizontal for a very low disc and a beautiful around his mark throw. Just making really nice passes between their handlers. Scuba! Oh, great grab from men's, number 37 on forward. Stunning.
By the body language of Izno, that's the end of the game.
I believe so. We just saw in that replay really great footwork from those handlers. They were making cuts and then turning really nicely away from their players. And we just see this scuba over the top.
That was a scuba saying, let's just get this over with. I'm
think
done.
so.
I want a beer. I want
Let's
some
wrap
food.
this up. Well, the game has been wrapped up. And that's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. I've been Hilary Humes. I've been joined by Gigi. In the commentary box, I'd like to thank ULTI.TV for streaming this game live on YouTube. Up next, we have
Smog versus another world's team who unfortunately I cannot pronounce. And on the other pitch,
ULTI.TV. What's your last name, Hillary? Oh, my friend scored. Welcome to Windmill Windup 2018. We're in the mixed division. Smog are taking on Sugar Mix, two triple UCC teams there. We just seen the first point scored by Smog. Rachel Turton off to a great start on the O-line, banging in their first goal. They're 1-0 up. I'm joined here, this is Liam Grant, joined by Hillary Humes. How are you getting on, Hillary?
Absolutely fabulous. Absolutely.
Damn straight. We're
Liam.
moving into round 2. We're getting more competitive games. I think this one's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of this tournament. It's a Swiss draw. So all the games from now on should be very tight, should be very close. Liam, do you know much about either of these teams?
I know that Sugar Mix wear black and pink in their jerseys. Learned that just there by looking at them. That was one of the things there from Germany. And I like the fashion going on here. They got a little lollipop on their jersey. It's a good little look for them. I see them come out in a vert stack, try and isolate someone deep and just boom it. That's what we like to see. That one is floating like a tasty peach.
Acres of space in front of her defender. I mean, that was one way to show off, start the match off right.
That was a frosty flick. That was an unbelievable shot. I think that was Ben Richardson who threw that field and hook. And there is a strong wind, but you would not think so looking at the replay of that shot. And a great rundown.
She had so much power behind her, she had to get on the ground. It's a sign of someone who is running her heart out, not trying to slow down any pace. And you're right there, Liam. That was a throw into the wind. The wind is kind of going right to left on the camera here. It's just kind of slowed down a little bit. It's not too breezy at the moment, but before it was picking up quite a fair bit. And we'll see if that will affect the players today.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams earlier was struggling to score in the end zone on the right upwind, but these teams not bothering them too much, banging in their 0 points. Off to a great start.
So Smog are a team heading to WUC in Cincinnati, Ohio, so World Ultimate Club Championships. I saw them play as a women's team at the UKU Tour 1, and they did really well with such a small roster, so it's really impressive now to see them with their full side of their mixed squad.
Coming out in a 3-4 handler set.